They say the more things change, the more they stay the same. This is the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Flash, and I'm really not sure what this shoe is. Yo, what's going on everybody? Kofuzi here, and today I want to talk to you about the new Mizuno Wave Rebellion Flash. Now, before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a shoe that Mizuno sent to me for the purpose of review. However, they're not paying me to make this video or to use the shoe, and they're not going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Flash. First, let's go over some specs and a little bit of history. Last year, Mizuno came out with the Wave Rebellion, and it was an interesting shoe that I was really excited about. The look of this foam made it look like it was going to be a light, squishy, but responsive, plated racing type of shoe. But in execution, it was a shoe that I didn't actually love all that much. Now fast forward one more year and we've got the Wave Rebellion Flash. So not a Wave Rebellion 2, but a Wave Rebellion Flash. I don't know if these two shoes are going to exist in the lineup at the same time or if this is a replacement and they just didn't want to call it a 2, but they are almost the identically same shoe, but there are a couple of very key differences as well. One is that even though the shoes look the same in terms of how they're stacked up, there is a change in the midsole foam. Now there's two layers of midsole foam here, one kind of above this gray thing and one below it. And I'll talk about that gray thing in a second, but the foam below it is now a different foam. It's Mizuno's Enerzy, E-N-E-R-Z-Y foam. And the foam that's on top is the same foam material that they used last year, which is Enerzy Lite. Now, Enerzy Lite is a PEBA-based foam. So for those of you who are familiar with racing shoes, know that that's a typical material that's used in those highest performing type of shoes. So that's a really exciting foam to see. That kind of material tends to be both high rebound and also high compression. So it absorbs impact, but also decompresses quickly to give you a lot of snappiness for that next stride. Now the Enerzy foam is a little bit different than that. I'm not sure the exact chemical composition of it, but it is a high rebound foam. And they had this display when I talked to Mizuno at the running event in Austin at the end of 2022. And they had showed you where you could drop kind of a big ball bearing onto the Enerzy foam, and it would show that it would retain a lot of the energy or deliver it back on that rebound impact. So that's a different foam, whereas last year I believe it was all Enerzy Lite in the Wave Rebellion. Now that gray thing that I talked about is a glass fiber reinforced plastic plate. Now how that's not fiberglass, I'm not exactly sure. No one's ever really explained that to me, but that's the wording that they use. So I'm going to repeat that technical wording because I'm presuming that to someone that knows their materials, that actually makes a big difference. It's not a carbon fiber plate like you might see in some racing shoes, and it's not a nylon plate that I've seen in other shoes either. I'm thinking it's something that's in between. And I've held one of these plates before, and I think it's the same exact plate design from the Wave Rebellion Flash as in the Wave Rebellion. So I've seen one of the plates that came out of the Wave Rebellion, and it's a very rigid, very thick piece of plastic, and it spans the entire width of the shoe. So you can see it kind of on each end, there's a gray stripe, and you're seeing the other end of it in a gray stripe. And it almost has kind of almost like a C-beam, not like an I-beam with the beam in the middle, but like a C or like a U-beam kind of structure to it. And it's really designed for stability and keep the shoe from twisting around too much. So it's not going to be like a lot of carbon fiber plates where you're supposed to load it with a lot of energy as your foot hits the ground and then it springs back and gives you that springy sensation that we see in a lot of carbon plated shoes. This one is really designed for a lot of stability, especially in that midfoot area for when you're landing. The other unique thing about this plastic plate is that it has a kind of a split fork design, and you can kind of see a little bit of an outline of it here that's kind of like mimicked in this outsole pattern. And again, that split fork pattern I've seen in other carbon fiber shoes, where they're more worried about stability than they are like carbon springiness. And so that again reinforces this idea that what they're trying to do with this plastic kind of like member inside the shoe is make sure that the shoe stays really, really stable. Even if you're landing a little bit kind of like awkwardly on it, it still has that flexibility due to that fork design to be able to still absorb impact and then kind of spring back a little bit. Now it also has a unique kind of placement where it starts in the middle of the foam and then scoops down low. So you're basically like standing on all foam in the forefoot, and the plastic plate is pretty much kind of like on the bottom of the shoe. And another thing that that does is a low plate placement in the forefoot, again, reinforces the concept of stability. So like they're engineering stability into this shoe in a lot of different ways. Moving to the outsole, we have a similar pattern as what we saw last year. And this outsole material is what Mizuno is calling its G3 material. And I believe it's a polyurethane material, not necessarily a standard kind of rubber outsole. And just like last year, this pattern and material gives a very good grip, even on wet and otherwise slippery surfaces. Flipping up to the upper, there is a very breathable air mesh material, which is very nice and stretchy. And here's where I think we're seeing kind of like the most noticeable to me changes in the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Flash from the Wave Rebellion. Now, if you looked at the Wave Rebellion, there was a lot of kind of structure in the upper of the shoe. The heel cup was gigantic and very, very stiff. There was also even a toe cap that's bigger than a lot of the trail shoes that I've even been running in lately. And so there was just so much kind of armor and protection and things built into this shoe. And they were using a mesh that was soft and comfortable, but didn't really give the sensation of speed. And overall, this package had very much of a kind of daily trainer durable vibe. And then there was also this really weird tongue where it was kind of like way too big and stuck out way too far. So there was a lot of like execution problems and like some odd choices for the upper that went on in the original Wave Rebellion. This year, they've switched it up and turned it into a very flexible, a very stripped down upper, which makes a lot of sense for a shoe that you're gonna wanna go fast in. There still is a little bit of structure in this toe cap, but it's a lot softer than last year, so it's gonna be a lot less obtrusive, and it's a very flexible heel cup as well. So there's almost no structure back here at all. And I'm really liking the way that this can really cinch down and hold onto your foot when you're trying to pick up the pace. Even the tongue has been corrected. They've pretty much just chopped off the weird top part of the tongue that was way too big from last year, and it makes for a perfectly sized tongue now. So I'm really enjoying the changes in this upper, where the shoe feels like the materials are fitting my foot rather than me inserting my foot inside kind of like a protective shell. Now, altogether, all these changes come in at a total weight of 8.1 ounces and 229 grams. Now that we've talked about the specs, let's talk about what it was like to run in the shoe. And overall, I'll say that I have a lot of the same feedback on the Wave Rebellion Flash as I had for the Wave Rebellion, in that I'm very excited for this shoe. I think like it looks great. All the things on paper sound like things that I'm gonna wanna run in, but in execution, even though it fits much better for me this year, the shoe overall just feels a little bit too firm. Like even in the heel, where they've changed out that foam from the Enerzy Lite to the Enerzy, where they're supposed to have a little bit more high rebound, I'm just not feeling good when I run in this shoe when I'm midfoot striking or heel striking, and especially not when I'm running at easy paces or recovery paces. The only time that I really like running in the shoe is when I'm in the toes, when I'm in the forefoot. It's pretty much the only time that I feel like this plastic plate that's in the middle isn't kind of interfering with what my foot's trying to do and isn't taking away from what these foams can do in and of themselves. So I feel like the plastic plate that's in here, this wave plate, is really muting all of the good foams that they put in this shoe. And so the only time I like it is when there isn't a plate, and that's when I'm kind of in the front of the shoe. So I took it out for a workout where I was running at threshold paces, but I also had a long warm up and cool down and some recovery paces in the middle there. And I found that when I was on my toes, when I was really pushing off hard, when I was working harder, that's when I felt like I could tell what this Enerzy Lite was doing, and I enjoyed that sensation. I got a really nice grip from that G3 polyurethane outsole, and I felt like that was a combo of things that worked really well, even if it wasn't one of the most refined running experiences that I've had lately. In fact, I feel like the shoe is kind of like chaotic, and it really exacerbated any kind of like imperfections like in my gait and in my stride, which of course I have many of those. I don't have really good running form. So it was kind of like a raw power kind of sensation where I was just kind of like trying to hold on. But on the other hand, when I was able to kind of line things up correctly and lean forward and get that foot in the right position for that next foot strike, I felt like you were really rewarded with a really nice sensation from the toes in this Enerzy Lite midsole foam in the Wave Rebellion Flash. And so I get these kind of like sparks of potential greatness. And then when those work phases of my workout were over and I was going back to recovery phases, I instantly felt like the rest of the shoe just felt really firm underfoot, and my arches would kind of just start to ache almost instantly because I just wasn't really agreeing with this shoe. And so like for my kind of gait, my kind of foot strike, at faster speeds, the shoe has kind of these flashes of brilliance. But for the most part, my experience with the shoe was a little bit kind of confusing and very much just like a very firm shoe that I didn't really love. So now let's go over some of my summary bullet points. And the first thing I'm talking about is what this shoe is best for. I do think that this shoe is a pretty good workout shoe depending on the kinds of workouts that you're doing. So I feel like people that are doing threshold workouts or VO2 max work, I think that you might find that you really enjoy this shoe. And I also think that this is going to be a shoe that really responds well to those people who are more heel and midfoot strikers, because of the fact that this shoe is really built for kind of rolling the foot forward and has all those kind of like stable elements in there. You might enjoy this shoe a lot more than I do, and you may find a little bit more versatility in the shoe than I found. Now, if you're looking at this shoe, you're probably looking at a couple of other shoes as well. Now, one of the shoes that I think that you should also consider is going to be the Metaspeed Edge Plus. Now, I feel like there's a lot of similarities in terms of how these shoes are stacked up, but I do think that this shoe is executing it a lot better. It has a carbon fiber plate with that low scoop where the carbon plate kind of scoops low to the ground. So you are standing on top of a lot of that midsole foam, and that low plate position gives you that stable landing that encourages a quick turnover aided by a sharp rocker, which both of these shoes have. But I do think that this shoe is a little bit more comfortable for me, especially in the heel and also in the forefoot too. So in terms of the way that these foams behave, I prefer the way that the Metaspeed Edge Plus rolls. So that's another shoe that you should consider. Now, if you are gonna get the Wave Rebellion Flash, I think there's a couple of shoes that you might wanna pair it with. There are gonna be kind of more on the firmer side of cushion shoes, if that makes sense. So the first one that I'll talk about is the Triumph 20. This is kind of like in that max cushion category of shoes. So it is plush and it is very comfortable, but compared to some of other similarly situated, very tall stack height shoes, it doesn't have quite as much squish in it. So if you're not liking that squish, which is probably something that is drawing you to the Wave Rebellion Flash, then I think that for a long distance, easy day trainer, the Triumph 20 is going to be a good fit for you. The other shoe that I think you might really enjoy is another shoe that I haven't actually been loving, but I know some of you in the comments respond really well to it, is the Brooks Glycerin 20. I have the Stealth Fit version, which gives it this knit upper. This is a material that I really want to enjoy, but I just find it to be a little bit too firm for my liking. But I think that people that like the way that the Wave Rebellion Flash runs are probably also going to like the way the Brooks Glycerin 20 Stealth Knit is going to feel underfoot. So those are my thoughts on the Wave Rebellion Flash and what shoes might go with it or might compete against it. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Monday through Friday and I could talk to you guys in the chat. That's all for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?